Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tasha. I am the owner and hands behind the Custom Gypsy. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I do my cotton candy Milky Way. I posted these cups about 2 weeks ago and you guys went crazy about them, so I'm super excited to show you just how easy they absolutely are to make. So this design can be done on any style tumbler, but today we're going to be using the 22-ounce fatty from the Stainless Steel Depot. So when I prep my cups, my goal was to get this full shiny coating off of the cup. And also I go in and I pop these little silver discs off the bottoms of the cups, not just this little blue sticker. To get the silver disc off, I just get it with some heat, go in with my tweezers, fight with it for a few seconds and pop it off. There's typically a little bit of like adhesive left, little residue. Just take some 91% rubbing alcohol and it will come right off. So today I'm going to be using some Sticky Back 180 sandpaper. Now the reason I'm using Sticky Back is because I love it. It sticks to my hand. I can mold my hand where I want it to go. Like, it is my favorite. The grit is really just what I have on hand right now. Full disclosure, my husband paints cars, so I have all kinds of sandpaper here. I typically just go out to the shop, snatch some, bring it inside, and that's what I snatched last time. I try not to use anything any more abrasive than a 180, but to be honest with you guys, 300 is kind of like my happy medium. But anyhow, for prepping a cup, this 180 is absolutely fine. When I'm sanding this cup, I do make sure I get all the shiny parts off, the top, the bottom, the edges, all the way around, because you really just want your paints to be able to adhere to the stainless very, very well. I promise you, some people say that prepping doesn't matter, but it is very, very important. Once I finish sanding, I just spray it off with some 91% alcohol, wipe it down with some paper towels. Then I bring it over to the sink just to give it a really good scrub down with some Dawn dish detergent and my little scrub mama. You don't really need to do a lot of washing. You just want to make sure you get all that residue off the cup. So again, whenever you go to paint it, your paint's going to stick to it. You're not going to have any problems. I do let this cup dry a few minutes after I've washed it, and I do wipe over it with alcohol one more time. I feel alcohol is just the key to everything, so I use it an absolute lot. So for my paint today, I'm going to be using a pink, purple, and blue. They're all Rust-Oleum, and I'll have them all listed for you guys so you know exactly which ones to get. As far as the finish, it's up to you. Doesn't matter if it's matte, satin, or glossy. It's just down for a base to lay your glitter. So when painting the cup, you're just going to take your colors and rotate in between, spraying in little bursts all the way around. You don't have to follow a certain pattern, just however much of each color you want. I wanted a really even distribution of all three colors, so I kind of go back and forth and layer. Layering is absolutely fine. Just make sure that your bottom color is dry. It was really sunny this day, so my paint was drying pretty quickly. Plus, I wasn't putting very heavy coats on, which really, really makes a difference. So kind of burst it, thin coats and layers, and just make it yours. That is the best advice I can give you for this technique and getting your paint to lay perfectly on this cup. So once my cup has completely dried, I come in with a coat of very thin fast set epoxy. I prefer counterculture fast set because it completely dries in like 2 hours. And whenever I'm using it for my glitter application, I can spread it on there, let it sit for about 10 minutes, and it's just like the perfect tackiness for my glitter to lay down absolutely smoothly. I will tell you that I warm up my cup before applying my epoxy just so it'll smooth out a little better. If you warm your cup, be very, very mindful not to heat it up too much and not to use too little epoxy, because once your cup starts to cool off, your epoxy will shrink and your glitter coverage will not look the same. It will become streaky and your cup's just not going to be fully covered. So I definitely recommend heating up your cup to make the epoxy process easier, but I also suggest to pay a whole lot of attention, and that way you don't end up with streaky glitter application. Once my cup has sat for about 5 to 10 minutes, I come in with my chunkiest glitter first to add a very light layer. This glitter is Blossom by Peachy Olive Glitters. I then come in with my medium cut chunky, which is Baby Violet by Peachy Olive Glitters. And I'm a little bit heavier with this one because this cut is the star of the show. You do not have to use these exact colors. These are just what I chose because they both kind of lay with this cup and the colors very well. And they blend in with all three colors to give that really, really pretty cotton candy effect. Now to fill in some of my finer gaps, I come in with a 0.15 white. This white right here does not come from any particular shop. I actually order my white in bulk from China. But if I had to compare, then I would say this is comparable to Stardust from Peachy. So definitely if you can't order yours from China, give that one a try because I think it would fit perfect. And again, I'm just going in layering my 3 colors from chunky to medium chunky to fine, just until I get the coverage that I desire. After applying my glitter, I let my cup sit for about half an hour, and then I come in with a piece of wax paper, roll the cup into it, and just smooth out any pieces of glitter that may be sticking up before I apply my epoxy. I promise you this saves your epoxy from being wasted and being eaten up by all of the glitter. Chunky glitters are notorious from eating your epoxy, and you end up needing more than what you should have to use. So for this cup, I'm only going to mix up 30 milliliters of epoxy, and I ended up having some left over after applying it because as you see, it's smoothing on there. So absolutely freaking perfect. So if you have not tried wrapping your cup, I definitely recommend it. It is an absolute game changer. And I promise you guys, if you start trying this, you're going to absolutely love it and you'll never go back. So when applying the epoxy to the cup, I do go kind of slow just to make sure that I cover every single crevice of this tumbler. The reason is when I come in with my second coat of epoxy, that is when I'm going to do my Milky Way. Now, I know a lot of people kind of use 2 layers of epoxy, then come in with the third and put the Milky Way effect into that. I do not do that. I do my Milky Way on the second coat because I do want to leave a little bit of the roughness underneath the white. So that way it just gives a little bit of movement, a little bit more dimension, and it flows a little bit more natural. So for this first coat of epoxy, it is very, very important that you use a thicker epoxy or either let your epoxy sit till it's a little bit thicker and it's not very runny, and that you just get it to smooth on there and you cover the entire cup. Like, it's very, very important. You can use 2 coats of epoxy, but baby, I'm trying to work smarter, not harder. Once that first set of epoxy is dry, I come in with my second coat. I use about 20 milliliters of Counterculture Artist Resin. This is like an 8-hour cure time epoxy. I use this one so it gives me a little bit more work time whenever I mix my epoxy dye in to start working on the Milky Way layer. Once you get that cup completely covered, you go in with your epoxy dye. I mix that with the remaining epoxy. Then I'm going to come in with my coffee stirrer and just start dropping little balls of the white epoxy onto the cup. Now, let me just tell you guys, when it comes to dyeing the epoxy, use as little or as much as you like. I don't really have an exact measurement. And if you look at any of my Milky Ways, they're all different. Some are heavier on the white. Some the white's a little bit more transparent. I just play with it. So there's really no right or wrong way. When I'm dropping my epoxy balls onto the cup, I'm just putting them in random places because I'm going to move them around. You're going to see them moving as the cup spins, and that's okay. You do not want it to stay a ball, obviously. Once I get a couple of them down, just to start off, I do take a silicone tool. You can use your gloved finger, you can use a toothpick, or whatever you think works, and you just want to go in and manipulate it a little bit. Now, I want my epoxy to go up and down. I do not want it to go horizontally around the cup, so I'm just trying to move it up and down to give it that direction to move before I hit it with the heat, because the heat is what's going to give you the best movement, but you do just want to kind of guide it. You know what I'm saying? So that way you're not adding too much heat to it. After I get that first layer of white laid out, I do let the cup spin around a couple turns, and then I come in with my heat gun to move it out just a little bit more. Now, when you're adding heat to these, please be careful not to burn your epoxy because it is way easier than you would think. And another reason for not wanting to add too much heat is you're not going to want your spots to move too much. You know, you're going to want movement, but you still want to be able to control it so it doesn't become a soupy mess. So just go around the cup, you know, hit your spots, move them to where you want them. But if you notice your epoxy getting a little thin or moving just a little bit too much, back off the heat, let the cup spin, or you could even come in and add a little bit more white to it to kind of thicken it up a little bit, which you'll see me doing. I have a tendency to get a little heavy-handed with the gun because I feel like I need the epoxy to move more. But the reality is, back off on the gun, let the cup spin some, and move it around with your tools. Your tools will help you tremendously, and they're a lot safer, and you're at less risk of burning your cup. But definitely go in and add more white as you please and hit it with the heat as much or as little as you like, just to get the movement that you're going to want. And keep in mind, your cup's got to spin for 8 hours. So one thing I do like to do whenever I don't feel like I'm getting the vertical movement that I like from my cup is take my turner, pick it up, and move it up and down. And what I mean by this is I'm going to put my cup at a vertical angle just to make that epoxy move down, and I'll do it up, I'll do it down on both ends, just kind of like a topsy-turvy, I guess you would say. just to get me a little bit more movement. Once I feel like it's moved a little bit where I want it, I'm going to put this cup back down and I'm going to let it spin for about 8 hours. So before I go any further with the tumblers, I do stop at this point to do the cleaning process. When I'm cleaning my tumblers, I just heat up the rim with my heat gun, take a razor blade, and clean off any epoxy or paints that I do not want left on this cup. Some of you guys can use a heat knife for this too. That's absolutely fine. This is just my way of cleaning up my rims. Once I've scraped my rim, then I come in with a washcloth and some automotive paint thinner to clean the paint out of the inside of the cup and to check to see if I've left any epoxy. And if I have, then I'll come in and I'll scrape it some more. And then I'll take my washcloth and go in with the paint thinner and clean it out until it's clean. If any of the paint is ever really stubborn, then I will use a magic eraser. But for the most part, it's typically just the washcloth and the back and forth with the razor blade. Now she's ready to be sanded. I have not put another coat of epoxy on top of the Milky Way. We're going directly onto the white. That is my secret for these. Sanding over this white breaks it down a little bit more just to open up that color for you. But be very, very careful not to sand too abrasively or you're going to burn through and you're going to go straight down to the glitter. Now, I will try to get this cup as smooth as possible, so when I lay my next layer of epoxy, it could possibly be the final. But if not, we're going to be looking at 2 more coats. Once I do have the cup sanded down to where I'm happy with it, I wipe it down with 91% rubbing alcohol. I give it another Dawn dish bath and then another round of alcohol. Then I come in with my final coats of epoxy. And then we have this beautiful creation here. I absolutely love these tumblers and how they turn out. I love that no two will never be the same. Thank you guys again so much for subscribing to my channel, watching my video, and for all of your support all the way around. I cannot wait to see what you guys have come up with after watching this, and please, please, please tag me wherever it is posted. Thank you guys again, and if you have not already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss all our latest videos. Hope you guys have a great week. See you Friday.